I talked to y'all about the show that I had begun to watch called Ambassador, this Netflix show with Kerry Russell, who I know best as the star of Felicity, which my my wife, my then wife, loved to watch when I was in grad school in the late '90s and early 2000s. And I don't remember her being in much besides that. Oh, she was in. Oh, she was also in that show called The Americans, which was about these Russian spies who came and adapted and lived like they were Americans, but they were actually Soviet spies. So that's kind of an interesting. That was the fact that she was involved in that, and now that she's a part of this project, this show called Ambassador. That's that makes me that causes me to think that maybe she's some kind of asset or other. Actors, people in the entertainment industry are utilized as assets. It happens. It's I don't want to say it's common. I don't Of course I don't know how common it is, but I've read and heard enough to believe that it's a very real phenomenon. And so when you start seeing these kinds of certain actors or actresses turn up in these particular kinds of roles, embodying these particular types of characters, especially when the plot lines revolve around the intricacies of the political machinations of those who dwell within the corridors of Washington power. That kind of gives one pause. So what I saw happen, I mean, and I did an earlier video about this show, Ambassador, because I was I kind of had a not love. I don't want to say love hate, but I had, in some ways, I thought it was really well made and well acted, and it kind of swept me up and got me to want to keep watching. While at the same time, there was something about it I really didn't like, didn't trust. I felt there was something going there. I feel that there is something going on. I feel that there's a hidden hand at work. I feel that it is a piece of propaganda, but it's very well made, and it's well acted, um, and it's high quality propaganda, right? And that's the best kind of propaganda that there is the kind that you forget, or maybe to most viewers you don't even, it doesn't even occur to you that it's being that you're being steered along in a particular direction. Uh, but I mean, Netflix is it's heavily affiliated with the Obamas, right? And that's not to say that every bit of programming on Netflix is just trying to steer our minds in a particular way. I'm sure that some of it's just entertainment, and some of it's just can be seen as just art. But some of the things that they put out, some things that are Netflix shows, it reveals not it reveals the kinds of things that they would have us uh, be interested in, the things that they would have us want to believe about what's going on in the world, right? So it's not just, oh, what are people interested in? Let's make a show about that because that will get good ratings. It's also, what do we want people to believe about these things, and how do we what's the best way to do it? Now, here's where I think what I think is both interesting and really quite sinister about this show, Ambassador. Um, I believe it might be part of, uh, gosh, I don't know the correct terminology. A limited hangout. That's probably not exactly the right term. Um, uh, what I think we might be headed for in the future, maybe in the fairly near future, is that we're going to see uh, uh, revelations of false flags, revelations of certain events being inside jobs, being false flags, and um, but those stories being managed in a particular way, and maybe it's not going to be like a total like for everybody. It's not going to be like there's a part of the population that's just always going to think, oh, 9/11 was when 19 Arab hijackers attacked us. Um, and you know, November 22nd, 1963. Uh, um, However many years ago. Today is November 22nd as I'm recording this. This is November 22nd, 2024. So 70 years ago, 60 years ago, 61 years ago. I can't do the arithmetic in my head, but it was on this day. You know, some people are just always going to think, well, it was Lee Harvey Oswald, just a troubled man who just decided to. It was one of those flukes of history where he managed to pull off this assassination of the the most powerful man in the world, the man who should have the greatest protection in the world, but who was somehow somehow served up on a platter as his motorcade drove down Dealey Plaza at like 10 miles an hour, for making it essentially a turkey shoot, as it has been called. But there's some people who are always going to believe that. But then you're going to those stories get managed, those stories get massaged. So the people who don't believe the official story, they have to be tended to. And I remember a documentary from a few years ago where the suggestion was that it was an inside job, sort of, but it was an accident. That there was some Secret Service man who, when the first two shots were fired, pulled out his gun and then accidentally fired the shot that killed Kennedy, the kill shot, the really gory, horrific shot where his head opens up and his brains pour out. That was the responsibility of this Secret Service man whose weapon discharged accidentally, and that was what they were trying. So that seemed like, I don't remember the name of that documentary, but that seemed like, I'm sure you could find it. It seemed to me to be an example of like a kind of uh, managed revelation, a false revelation, but an admission that there's something more. That yes, you're right. There was yes, so it's telling the those who don't believe the official story. Yes, you're right to not believe the official story, and here's the truth. But the truth is that we all wanted, the American the deep state, the American political establishment wanted to protect John F. Kennedy, but this this tragic accident happened, and this man was never the same afterwards, and he was haunted by this, the fact that his gun discharged, and that the man he was assigned to protect was killed by him by a stray bullet fired accidentally from his gun. That seemed like an example of them trying to say, okay, you conspiracy theorists were right, but here we're going to still steer you in the right direction and get you to think what we want you to think. Okay, so that was an actual documentary. Now, what you have in the show Ambassador is it's a fictional show, but there are a lot of commonalities. There are a lot of interesting commonalities. Uh, you have an older president, played by Lenny slash David St. Hubbins, the actor who was in Spinal Tap and Laverne and Shirley. He's the president, and he's kind of, I don't know, Biden-esque in some ways, although not as old and not as decrepit and not as demented. But he has a female vice president. So, and the idea behind the ambassador is Kerry Russell plays this. Well, she's the diplomat of the title. She's somebody who has, who has all of these connections. Who's a player within the system, but who has integrity and isn't up for, and wants to tell it like it is, and isn't up for playing politics and so forth. And the idea is they're secretly and then not so secretly grooming her to become the new vice president, because the vice president, the female vice president, uh, has met with some scandal. Her brother embezzled some money, and that story's gonna break, and it's gonna ruin her. And so this is all being managed, but so they want to see to it that she'll succeed the woman who's now the vice president, who's going to have to leave that position soon. Now, where things get interesting is the entire show revolves around a false flag event. It begins. The show is set in England. That's where she's playing the role of the diplomat. There are other things about the show. She's married to this guy who also has some ambitions, and so they're sort of a power couple, but they also fight a lot, and so it's anyway. I don't want to get into all the intricacies of all the different characters and stuff. I just want to hone in on what I think is again interesting and sinister about the show, which is there's a false flag event. It involves this British warship that seemingly is the victim of a terrorist attack, and the terrorists appear to be Iranian and or Russian. But what eventually comes out is that it was and so this attack ends up killing a large number of the sailors on this these members of the British Navy on this ship. And so it's this big outrage, and people want the British population wants to get revenge on whoever did this, to whoever staged this attack on them. What eventually emerges is that this was an inside job, and that the perpetrators of the inside job are this conglomeration of various people. And by the way, these are spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, then don't watch the rest of this video. But I don't care about giving you spoilers because I even though I think the show is entertaining, I'm I'm pretty sure it's deep state propaganda, and so I don't care about spoiling it. I think it's good to spoil it, and I think it's if you want to watch it, you can, but I think uh, it's if you watch it, you shouldn't watch it naively. Um, so uh, so it turns out that there's this group of, at first it seemed like it's just British, some parts of the some segments of the British power elite who staged this attack, um, for political reasons, um, because they wanted to stop a couple of things that were happening. There were a couple of events that were in motion that they wanted to prevent from happening. One of them was Scottish independence, and I can't remember. It seems like there were other things, other reasons why they did it, but what emerges is that they didn't actually intend anyone to die. They wanted it to just be, an attack, and then like I don't know, where something bad happens and something explodes and on the ship, and but they didn't intend for there to be actual casualties, which just to me that's just like what in the why would you stage a false flag attack if there were no, and be scrupulous about casualties. um why uh wouldn't you, if you're nefarious enough, if you're underhanded enough to want to do something like that, and you think the ends justify the means, but you're not going to go so far as to actually kill people. That just seems completely unrealistic to me. And for for a show that's supposed to be revealing some, it's like, oh yeah, it's this show is revealing that false flags do happen, and inside jobs are real. And it's a pretty wild thing that's like because we were told for so long that if you think 9/11 was an inside job, you're just crazy. You're crazy. You're a kook. In spite of all the reasonable reason, all the reasonable, uh, the quite reasonable inferences that might lead one to believe something of the kind about 9/11, or some other event. Um, it's like, but they want to make us think, oh well, the bad guys weren't really the and then of course, the what gets revealed, ultimately gets revealed, is that the vice president, the female vice president, was also behind this attack, because because of something like the uh, something pertaining to missile defense, that there was a base in Scotland that had some strategic an American base in Scotland that had some strategic importance, and that if Scottish independence were allowed to happen, then that base they would have forced that base to close, and then the Russians would have had would have been able to circumnavigate and have this advantage, missile defense system wise, against the United States. So it was crucial that that base stayed open, And again, when all of this gets revealed, we're supposed to see this. On the one hand, we're supposed to see, oh my gosh, these people within the corridors of power, they're capable of such evil. But then we're told, no, no, they're not really that evil. They felt they did what they felt like they had to do, and then it got really out of hand. And they never wanted anybody to die. They never wanted anybody to die. I mean, God, come on, come on. Um, it's they're totally jerking us off with that. I'm being a little. That's a little bit of a vulgar way of putting it, but I mean it's not, when you really think about it, it's something that should piss you off. They're trying to the kind of stuff, the kind of sleight of hand, they're the kind of lies that they're trying to sell you, right? I mean, and that you can see it coming, right? You could see something coming in the future where they say, okay, well, you people who didn't believe the official story about 9/11, yeah, you know what, you're right, but you're not right in the way you think you're right. We never wanted anybody to die on 9/11. We I don't know how they would, how I don't know how they would parse that. I don't know what they would do. Maybe they would say we didn't want so many people to die, or we never thought there would like I don't know. Like the thing about this show is it finds a way to make the deep state's complicity in these false flag events seem justified. When we find out uh, that this is true about this vice president doing this thing, being behind this event, it's shocking. And then, but then it's like, oh well, here's her explaining. We do need. I mean, we are the best. I mean, it's a very pro American foreign policy show. It's like, it's all about saying, uh, the State Department and the CIA, they're good. They want to accomplish things in the world that are good, and the people that we're up against, they're the real bad guys. So the Russians and the Iranians, they're the real bad guys. But the American deep state, the CIA, and all of those customers, they may do underhanded things sometimes, but it's because um, it's for reasons that are ultimately just, but sometimes things get out of hand in a way that they didn't foresee, and it's a tragic thing that people die, but they never meant for that to happen. So when I saw that direction, that the show was taking that direction, I thought to myself, wow, there's like it somehow was a revelation to me that there's no there's nothing to which our our corrupt rulers, there's, I mean, they'll stoop to anything, and it really is an insult to one's intelligence, the kind of things that they try to admit certain things while also mitigating the revelation that they're, you know this wild revelation that they're admitting to, that they're at the same time saying, well, it's not that bad, you really, and there were good reasons for it, and so ultimately they want us to still trust the people, uh, who are ruling us. It's a show that is, in a twisted way, say, ultimately coming around to saying, uh, these people are the good guys. Yeah, they stage false flag attacks. Yes, they're responsible for the deaths of I don't know how many British naval officers in the show, or how many civilians at the Twin Towers in real life, but they're still the good guys. But this is the first time I think I've seen uh, them massage this whole false flag event, because mostly what the propaganda arm of the deep state, most of what they do is just say, oh, these people are all just silly, they're stupid, they're just kooks, and what a ridiculous thing to believe, what an unpatriotic thing to believe that your government would do something like that, that your government would intentionally harm and kill people. I mean, that's just crazy to believe such a thing. Why would you ever? It's not like, why would you believe something like that? That has, all the precedent in the world, like all, like, centuries of precedent, but you're still kooky to believe it. Um, and this show, The Diplomat. I mean, it's whoever's behind it, whoever's ultimately behind it. I mean, they've got some talent there. They've got, some writers who know how to write dialogue, and they've got some good actors, um, and all the other, it's a top rate show in some ways, but it's like one of those, spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. That's ultimately what it's about. So, have y'all seen this show? Has anybody else seen this show? If you have, tell me what you think.